Hello! Let's build a fun image portfolio site. One of the biggest problems that people have, and the hardest problem with CSS, it's always making sure that we have our items displayed in the location that we want. That is a really difficult problem. And there are many solutions to this problem, but one of the new ways, and now it's probably the most popular way, is called Flexbox. And we're going to be using that to create a beautiful image website. Let's get started. So I have an index.html file here and a style.css file in the same directory on my desktop. So let's get started with our typical HTML file. We're going to title it CSS, and in the body we're going to have a header of life in the wild, and refresh. Perfect. And in here we're going to have a div with a class of container. We'll close that off, and in here let's add some images. Now if you remember, with images I can type in this and then tab with Sublime Text, and we don't have any pictures yet, so for now let's just copy and paste and add 6 images. Save and refresh. Okay, let's start adding some of these images, and I actually have a file full of these images for you, and I'll attach it to the next lesson so you can also build it yourself. So I'm just going to copy these quickly. Phew, that was a lot of copy and pasting. Let's save that and refresh. All right, we have our images and they're massive. So let's make this a little bit smaller. We can now go to our style sheet and we can select the images, and let's just do width 450 pixels and height 300 pixels. And you might be asking yourself, how come we don't do it here on the individual images? Remember, we can add attributes, but that means if we needed to ever change anything, we have to individually go into each image and change it versus just changing in one location. So for now, we're going to stick to the CSS size. Let's save that and refresh. And obviously we need to link the file. So let's add a link here and it will reference our style.css. Save that and refresh. There you go. We have our images. Look at that, some beautiful animals here. Now, Flexbox has a great resource, obviously from CSS Tricks, and this is pretty much all you need. It shows you all the things that Flexbox can do, and as you can see, it allows you to play around with content and shift it around in a very nice way. I'm going to attach this link for you at the end of this video, and you can take a look for yourself. For now, let's learn a few Flexbox properties. We want to define that everything inside of this div is part of Flexbox. Let's select, it's called container, so let's do container. And within this container, we will say that display will be flex. So that's how we activate Flexbox. Refresh. Okay, we have a few changes, which is nice, but I don't want to scroll through this. Ideally, I can see everything without scrolling. So one thing we want to do, and again, we can look down over here at the suggestion, we see that flex wrap might be something that we want to add. So let's do flex wrap and do wrap and refresh. Okay, that's perfect. So if I make this bigger, you see that everything is wrapping around. Okay, but I think the content should be centered. It kind of looks weird to having everything to the left over here. So again, we can do something called justify content, and then we can do center. And refresh. Perfect. And if we look on the guide over here, justify content should be right over here. You can see all the properties that it has. That looks pretty good, and we did that pretty fast. Made a nice little portfolio website already. what else can we add now that we have this flexible container around our website? Let's make the header a little bit prettier than it is now. So that's the H1. We can add an H1 here, and we'll say that the font family is, I like this one, Fantasy. Save and refresh. Ooh, I like that one. Font size, let's make it a little bit bigger. We'll do 3 EM. So if you don't remember what EM is, make sure you check out that video. Okay, so that looks better. Maybe it'll be nice to have a bit of a border as well. So we can do border bottom because we only want a border on the bottom. And we'll do 2 pixels solid pink. And refresh. Okay, perfect. That looks good, but ideally I want a border just around this. I don't want the entire section, so we can actually just say that for H1, we want the width to be 400 pixels. I save and refresh. All right, perfect. That looks good. And ideally, this is centered so that the line underneath it is, well, on the left side and right side is equally distributed. So we can do something like text align, center. And you'll notice here that it's aligned in the center, but not the web page center. It's aligned in the center of the width of 400 pixels. But that looks good. It'll be actually nice to have a border around here as well. So let's add border right, 2 pixels solid pink. Save and refresh. All right, that looks very nice. And then the final thing I want to add is I want to have some spacing between these images. So I'm going to add a margin of 10 pixels here. And refresh. All right, let's take a look at our website right now. That looks very, very nice. As you can see, Flexbox is a very easy thing to implement. And it makes your websites look really, really nice, and you can position your content very easily, especially if you have these container-like structures. I want to show you one last resource for Flexbox. Again, this is a tool that you'll see more and more of, and ideally you'll build websites using Flexbox instead of some of the older ways. One way to get really, really good at Flexbox is to play this game, and it's called Flexbox Froggy, I believe. Let's see. And here you're trying to get the frog onto the leaf, its little home. So you can do something like justify content flex end. And look at that. You get the frog onto the leaf and you move on to the next round. I'll leave this for you. It's a really, really good way to learn Flexbox. I think this is probably the best way to do layout in CSS. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.